Yo, what's good? It's LaynoProd from Team Producer Grind. I'm here with Russell Groovy in the wet room, Los Angeles, California. We're gonna do a chill West Coast melody, and then we're gonna send this off to MEEK so he can flip it into something crazy. First, we're gonna start with the Pier 39 loop from Cruise, West Coast Melodies. My latest sample pack. Go get that if you want chill West Coast melodies. Pier 39, there's a stem, specifically a ukulele. Nice ukulele, chill vibes, 90 BPM. All right, so I'm gonna go with this one. It's called Warm Times on the Mark 1. Woo, that's nice. Huh? I can't find the key, so I'm gonna just use scalar. That's why I get scalar. C sharp, D flat, yeah. C sharp, minor. Change the velocity to both, so there's variation in the timing and how hard they're pressing on the keys. Triads are cool, but 7th and 9th just give it that jazzy, like warm feel. Yeah. So. Yeah, there it is. Dope, dope.
Oh, that has like a little delay. Yeah, I like that.
You like that gyro?
Yeah.
Woo! One day! That was fire, man.
Dame tu cosita.
Cool. Okay.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Meek. Yo, so Layno and Russell sent me that super fire loop, and I want to show y'all what I did with it. Break it down. I'm gonna go ahead and just start from the intro. So I took their loop and I pitched it down. I pitched it up one semitone, so it went from being C sharp or C sharp minor to D minor. D minor is just a cool, funkier tone. And the first thing I added was the guitars. This was the first thing I added, I believe. You know, just some cool funky plucks. And for my guitars, my distortion that I've been using recently is Bias Effects 2. A big shout out to Positive Grid. This is an amazing amp. It's got on this British Dirt preset, but before that, I would just go into this add section. So I would go into the pitch and filter section and just choose one of these wahs. I believe I chose wah HD. That was the one I chose. And it gave me just that nice natural wah, so I didn't have to like use a pedal. The next guitar on top of that is just some chords. And that's just the ukulele loop that Russell laid down. The only thing I did is I just threw RC20 on that to kind of give it just some character. I used one of the presets from the Crypto RC20 preset pack. If you haven't copped it yet, 75 presets, super amazing sound, super amazing modulations and things you can do, all the way from drums to instruments to vocals. So I threw the vintage saturation preset on there. See, it just has a little bit of pink noise added, some tube distortion to give it some grit, and then the magnetic to kind of give it that little bit of a fluttery vibe. Then I added this guitar. And that was the same preset, but I just used I just did a different lick higher, you know, so it would kind of like harmonize with each other. And then all below all that is this rhythm guitar. This I kind of just figured out the chords by ear, kind of jamming along with this. And all of them together. So after that, I started laying down some drums. You know what I'm saying? I made a little pattern and had this going. This was the pattern. Try to make it funky, but a little bit of that West Coast, because I know, you know, that's Layno and Russell's style. The big things in this were this open hi-hat, or were this hi-hat loop. Really gritty from the homie AJ Hall. Just really gritty drums. Pretty basic trap little pattern, you know. I used one of the midis from the Super MIDI hi-hat pack. And the cool thing about this is this accent snare. This accent snare is actually from the God of War sample pack. And if you don't know the God of War sample pack, that was the orchestral sample pack T-Will, Ikari, and I cooked up. I used one of like these battalion war snares, right? Just did the accent snare like that because I wanted something that sounded like a reverbed room. I wasn't trying to go for like a straight up perk, you know. I wanted to go for something that sounded like a real snare, and then that turned into this. The next thing I want to go over is the effects, because for me, effects are super important in this track, especially. They're really adding the background and everything to this. In the beginning of the song, it's just some bird feathers from the Care Package Season 1. Just some birds to make it sound like Cali, you know what I'm saying? And then these sweeps, these cashmere sweeps. All this just to explode, right? Give all this like bright top end that it is just really nice in the mix. And then over here is where I added a few more. I added this big sweep and this this build up drums. I had this riser going, so we're building tension. A super long sweep that I extended, you know? And then those build up drums are really helping us, you know, get to that next part, right? So now let's go over the drop really quick. So for the drop, you know, the drums, all I did was I added a extra kick right here on the bottom. I mixed it down about like 12 decibels. And then I did a reverse kick behind it where I just took the sample, made it a little shorter, and just put it right behind it so it goes, instead of just, you know, having this. You know, it has this little bit of a reverse, which goes well with the other kick. Actually, I started with the chords. Let me go over the chords really quick. So I have them converted into audio, but I'll pull up the SERUM patch for you guys. This was the SERUM patch I made for the chords. Nothing too crazy. I just messed around with a couple different wavetables from Echo Soundworks. So let me see if I can play you guys the synth. It's using a lot of data because I have 7 and 9 voices on unison, so a lot of unison going on. These were the effects that I used: some hyperdimension, a little bit of phasing to give it like a wow, a vowel-y type of sound, a chorus to give it more dimension, a little EQ that you can see is just ducking and closing out the low end so that when the synth opens up, it just opens up and then closes back as it moves. A lot of this patch, the real sauce, is actually in this LFO, because you'll see the LFO is attached to not only a lot of stuff in my effects, but is attached to many different parts of my oscillator and filter section. To shape your sound, I recommend using those LFOs on as many points as possible. And then if you want to play around with rhythms, then that's when you throw a different LFO. But for this one, I just used one LFO. After I made that synth, I messed around with the rate a little bit. You can see I have this little rate automation, and that rate automation is controlling this rate macro. So what I did to make this rate macro is I just dragged it over to the rate right here of the first LFO, and then I tuned it to however I liked it. Instead of just it going, you know, like... Instead of it just going straight back and forth, wop, 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 you know, I had some parts where I went like this. You know, because I wanted to add variation. I wanted to keep it interesting. The other important part is the bass. So for this patch, I used one of the presets from a brand new SERUM preset pack, which I have coming out for y'all. Okay, so stay tuned. This is the Virtual Reese preset. I just took a saw wave, messed with the envelope and the attack of it, so it kind of had like a woof. Messed around right here with the portamento and curve section. And then as far as the effects, it's just a tube distortion and a compressor. Nothing crazy, you know, really simple, but just this bass alone. So that like this layered with the synth. Now, what's making these synths really move, and this is the last thing I'm going to go over, is the sidechain this, okay? So this is my ghost note pattern, okay? This is not controlling anything but my sidechain. So how I did this is I added a MIDI trigger, okay? Or a MIDI out when how to add it.
That's all, folks.
So I added a MIDI out to this pattern, called it ghost note. This is my sidechain note. So this I routed to channel 1 and port 1. Okay. Now since I did that, I'm gonna go to my template, and if you guys see in my template, right before my master, there's this sidechain bus. Okay. I'm gonna click that sidechain bus, and you'll see I have a shaper box. So this is what my shaper box is looking like. When you click the gear on the side, I have it routed to MIDI input port 1. So now the MIDI I have going from this sidechain ghost note pattern is going into shaper box. Okay. So now that it's going into shaper box, what I do is I go to mid volume LFO, click beat one shot. And so that every time the one shot hits, it's just going to activate the curve. And here I played around with the curve, you know, mess around with like half and quarter time speed, and quarter time speed seemed to work the best to get the proper dip I wanted. But I'll show you guys what the song sounds like without the sidechain. So this is what a song sounds like without the sidechain. This is what it sounds like with the sidechain. See, we're getting that pumping effect. The kick and the snare are coming out more in the mix. And that's really what I wanted to do with the sidechain. I not only wanted to add groove to the drop, but I wanted the kick and the snare and the drums to really just have those moments. And the sidechain helps me do that while at the same time creating a rhythm for me to play around with. I use the same sounds for the drums as I did before, except I added the snare and I added this, you know, quick little drum fill. And that just kind of brought it all together for me. And that's cool with the drop. You're kind of just able to bring it all together and see how it sounds. Yeah, that's a quick breakdown of me and LAYNO's song, man. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys enjoy the track. A big shout out to LAYNO and Russell for killing this loop, man. I think we're going to have to make this a song for everybody, man. Might have to release this one, bros. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. Make sure you stay tuned for a lot more producer grind tutorials. Peace.